Hello and welcome. We will get started today. We are talking about how to discover a joyful menopause. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Lynda Enright, a functional nutritionist and wellness coach. I have over 25 years of experience helping women to thrive in midlife. And today in this masterclass, it's about hope, clarity, and solutions for what you've been feeling and giving you a roadmap to feel like yourself again. Something I hear so often, I just don't feel like myself anymore. So here's what we're going to do today. First, we're going to talk about why menopause often feels so much harder than expected. Then I'm going to walk you through the Joyful Menopause Framework, a three-part system that I've created that helps my clients to reduce symptoms, to get their energy back, and to feel really good again. So I'm also going to share at the end a next step if you're ready for more support and you want to learn more about my program and how to work together. I'll give you some more information on that as well. So let's jump in. This is for you if you feel like your body is just not cooperating anymore. You're exhausted, you feel foggy in the head, you're gaining weight without changing a thing. This is what I'm hearing all the time. So I want you to the first thing I want you to understand is that you're not imagining it. And if anyone has told you it's just menopause or it's just aging, know that I hear you. You are not alone. This is a challenging time and it is not in your head. And there is a lot you can do to feel better. So we're going to talk about what's going on with your body and what you can do about it. So why does it feel so hard right now? Why does midlife feel so hard? Before I jumped in too quickly. First, also post questions in the chat. The chat is open. If you have any questions, feel free to post those along the way, and I will stop and answer those as we go. So on that note, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to type into the chat and tell me, you can just type it in and put it to me directly. Why is this? What are the things you're experiencing? What is the number one challenge that you are facing along these, that has changed, that's become more of a challenge for you through these years of perimenopause and menopause? So while you're typing that in, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why it can feel so hard. It's not just about estrogen. That's what we always think about. That's the first thing we talk about is estrogen. But it's actually, there's a complex relationship between all kinds of hormones, cortisol, insulin, thyroid, in addition to estrogen and progesterone. And these things are impacted by stress, by nutrient depletion, so just a nutritionally inadequate diet, but also just over time, our body not having adequate nutrients for all kinds of different reasons that our body's impacted by our nutrition. It is also impacted just by toxins in our environment. This isn't just aging. It's this convergence, this coming together of biology and your life situation and the stressors and the diet and all the stuff you've been doing. Know that you're not broken. You just haven't had the right map. You just haven't had the strategy that is going to help you get results. So some of the things I'm hearing people saying in the comments are weight loss. I mean, that's a lot of times why women come to me, is weight loss is the number one thing they're struggling with. But a number of people say weight loss. But the other things that I hear, which are other comments, brain fog and fatigue, constipation. So thank you for sharing all things that I hear all the time. Those are kind of the biggies: weight loss, fatigue, constipation, and digestive upset, brain fog. Those are kind of the ones that I hear all the time. So again, this is because of these hormonal shifts that are going on, and stress and inflammation and nutrition all coming together to create potentially a perfect storm. It's not your fault. You're not failing. You've just been misinformed. So some of the myths that you've maybe heard. Maybe you've been told it's just aging, nothing you can do about it, it's just menopause, eat less, exercise more, or maybe just take a pill, push through it. No wonder you're still struggling, because you're getting these just quick answers like, well, it's just, what are you going to do about it? It's just menopause, or just take hormone replacement therapy, which is, I stand behind that more than I used to. There's a lot more good research, and practitioners are learning better how to use HRT to get really great results. So that's not a bad thing, but It's not a requirement, and lots of women are having great success without necessarily going down that path. So the fact is, these are myths, and you've been given sort of these outdated solutions because we know so much more now. The science continues to grow and change, and we understand now what these strategies are that can honor your body, to know what you need now, what is different about your body now compared to when you were 25 or 30 or whatever it is. So we're going to talk about this framework, the foundation of the Joyful Menopause Plan that I've created. It's based on my 25 years of education and experience working with women to improve their health and to feel so much better. Number one, the first thing we focus on is nourishment and balance. Restore and rebuild is pillar 2, and pillar 3 is living in alignment. This is not a one-size-fits-all plan. So I have a framework that I've created based on all my experience, but the fact is when I work with clients, we're working with you individually to figure out like what's going on with your body, because everyone is unique. And when any practitioner tells you like this is absolutely the solution, and if you've ever Googled menopause, you'll get answers for sure. You'll get a solution. You'll get the one thing that they say works. The fact is that you are unique, and we got to figure out what works for you. And a personalized approach is the only way to go, the only way for sustainable, meaningful change. So let's jump into the pillars. Pillar number 1, nourish and balance. So we start with food. Not just, we'll start here with food. I'll talk about another piece here in a minute, but we're starting with food here, not just thinking about managing weight, which is often what people are focusing on, but really about healing. Food absolutely is medicine. And the right eating plan, way of eating, can do a lot of important things. It can heal your gut, which is at the root of a lot of the problems we're having. It can balance your hormones, which of course is at the root of a lot of these things. And it can nourish your brain, which is helpful for brain fog. Just concentration, just feeling better in so many ways. So we're starting with food because food is healing. It's not so much, we often get caught up into calories and macros and getting the right carbs and protein and all that. All that's great. All that's important. I don't ignore any of that. But we really have to focus on nourishment and quality, because we're trying to create, again, a food as medicine situation where we're healing our body. We're supporting it with what it needs on a day-to-day basis at this time in your life. When we nourish with intention, we can start to create the balance that our body is really craving at this time in life. So nourishing well can also really help to stabilize blood sugars. Stabilized blood sugars help improve mood, sleep, and weight management. You've maybe noticed when you eat a lot of sugary foods, maybe you get a quick energy boost, spike of your sugar, and then you crashed. And maybe you've noticed that crash creates irritability and a craving for more sugary foods. Or, when you don't have them, you sort of like get these ups and downs and cravings and all of that. Or maybe you don't sleep as well. That's something I hear often as well. If you have a dessert later in the evening, then you're, either not falling asleep or waking up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep because your blood sugars are all over the place. So your body is responding to what you have consumed. So when we can nourish our body well, we can create this stabilized situation, stabilization of blood sugar. Fluctuating blood sugars impacts your health and how you feel throughout your whole life. But as we get older, our body doesn't respond as well to the messages of glucose and insulin. We can become more insulin resistant. And so what we work on here is, creating a way of eating that's going to help that to regulate better. When you're younger, you can just get away with so much more when you're younger, because even though the same processes are happening, it's bad in the same ways. The choices that we make, maybe around like high processed foods or sugary foods or whatever it might be, it's not like it was good for us then. We just didn't have the same consequences as we do now, because just as we get older, our body, because there's a little more susceptibility to insulin resistance. Maybe we have a little more nutrient depletion because of a lifetime of stressors and things. So what worked before maybe isn't working quite so well anymore. Again, what goes too often, what I hear all the time is, I'm doing the same thing I always did. It doesn't work anymore. I can't do anything to lose the weight or whatever it might be. So that's the way it's supposed to happen, honestly. This is a time in your life when your body has to scream a little bit louder, maybe so you'll listen. These symptoms that we experience with gut dysfunction and hormonal imbalances and blood sugar and mood and sleep and weight and all this stuff, these are signs, just symptoms. They're symptoms of this imbalance. These are signs of imbalance that's going on. They were always there. They just maybe were quieter before. And now the choices that you're making are more likely to make it harder to get results, make it more likely that you live with these symptoms like mood swings, weight gain, hot flashes. And what impacts everything in your body, your weight, gut, brain, risk for disease in the future is inflammation. So this last bullet point about inflammation. Your diet plays a huge role, as we're talking about nourishing. Your diet plays a huge role in reducing inflammation and calming your symptoms. An anti-inflammatory way of eating can help to reduce your symptoms today. Could be weight, could be brain fog, could be digestive upset, and also reduce the risk for disease in the future. So heart disease, dementia, cancer, like the big problems we don't want to have happen, inflammation plays a role in all of this. So food is powerful. It's not about restriction. It's about the right strategy, the right choices, the right balance that works for your health at this time in your life. So you don't need a complicated plan. You can make some simple shifts that will absolutely add up to make it easier to get results. So number one, prioritize protein. So you need more protein when you're older for a number of different reasons. Muscle mass naturally declines with age, and your body becomes less efficient at rebuilding that muscle mass. So protein is essential for muscle protein synthesis, so synthesis, building of muscle, and increasing our protein intake can help mitigate, sort of prevent this decline, this kind of natural decline that can happen as we age. So we want to maintain strength and our functioning by having enough nutrients in our diet, having enough protein in our diet that allows our body to build that muscle and stay strong. Having enough protein helps preserve the muscle mass that we have. It helps support your body just to function well on a day-to-day basis, to prevent injury. Protein is needed for your immune system, to have a strong immune system, so that prevents infection and illness, but also a strong immune system supports disease prevention as you get older. Again, like I talked about, the big leading causes of death, heart disease and all of that. We need protein for our immune system to protect us. Bone health, we need protein for bone health. We need it to prevent fractures and to increase bone density. And then also hormones. Beyond, we think about protein for muscles and muscle synthesis and all that, and then bone health. Hopefully people realize it's important for that too. But we often don't think about it for hormone production, but it's needed for our body to make hormones, to build enzymes that help our metabolic function to work, everything to just work the way it's supposed to and hum along in our body. We need it for neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are all the messages in our brain. So we need protein for just everything that's going on all over. Second is prioritizing fiber. I consider fiber specifically for two reasons to be particularly important. Fiber helps to move your bowels, so it reduces constipation, which is super common during perimenopause and menopause. But besides the discomfort of constipation, when our bowel, it's just it sucks. It's uncomfortable. So that's one reason. But the other thing to consider is when your bowels are not moving well, things get stuck. So the toxins that are supposed to be excreted from our body now can get reabsorbed into our system. So the toxins that we might be exposed to are in our environment, the hormones that are being broken down and are exposed to be excreted. So all of these breakdown products from normal metabolic processes, from normal using up of hormones and breaking them down and then excreting them, they can hang around and they get reabsorbed back into your bloodstream. So it's interesting with estrogen particularly, because we think about with menopause and perimenopause, our estrogen's declining, and that's what it's supposed to do. That's a normal response. But sometimes you see women during these years that actually have estrogen dominance. So they have too much estrogen. And part of it is just the relationship between estrogen and progesterone. So it's not just that we want them, they both decline, and we want them to sort of decline in the right ratio. And so if progesterone is declining and estrogen is declining, but our detox system, our gut and constipation is happening, and now that estrogen that was being broken down and is in the stool to get excreted now gets reabsorbed, now we can create a different imbalance in these hormones. We can have too much estrogen and low progesterone, and now we create an estrogen dominant situation. So that can then create some symptoms. So again, it's really about this balance of the hormones that's really important. It's, they decline, that's fine. It just is what it is. But we don't want that. We want it to go in a clear path, a simple path, a balanced path. That's what we're aiming for. So fiber helps with this whole process of detoxification. So that's kind of the first reason why it's important. The second one is fiber helps to fill you up. So when weight management becomes harder, fiber can be really awesome because it just helps you to feel full. And then also, part along those lines, it helps to fill us up, but it gives us tons of nutrition. So fiber-rich foods tend to be fruits and vegetables, great sources of fiber, but they also have a lot of other nutrients. So that color tells us that these foods are rich in nutrients that our body needs, that our brain needs to really function at its best. So we also want to eliminate heavily processed foods. I hate to use the word, though. I hesitated to put eliminate on this slide because it sounds a bit extreme. But of course, sometimes we're going to have foods that aren't great for us. That's life, right? But I really do think it's best to eliminate these heavily ultra-processed foods as much as possible. So what does that mean? It means foods that are full of ingredients that you don't understand, that have lots of chemicals and additives and colorings and sweeteners. It's so hard to find products that don't have erythritol or sucralose or monk fruit or acesulfame. They're just everywhere. And I just don't think they're serving us very well. So I want to limit as much as possible or eliminate these processed foods that have all these ingredients that our body honestly doesn't really know what to do with. And they're not nature. They're not whole foods. We get used to often reading a food label with a lot of ingredients. It's just kind of normal. Everything we see, like I said, these ingredients are in everything. And so you see them, if you read food labels and you look at the ingredients, you can see these things and say, well, yeah, that it becomes normalized, right? It's so prevalent. But I really want you to look at these ingredients and take a step back and say, is it okay? Do I want these things in my diet? Is it okay to consume erythritol or carrageenan or sucralose or blue number 5? My belief is not. I believe that all of these additives is at the root of many of our problems. So we want to read labels, but I want you to understand what you're eating and keep it as simple as possible, as often as possible. It's not going to be perfect. Who's aiming for perfection? That's not realistic. But it's getting, more often eliminating these heavily processed foods. So back to the first 2 points, protein and fiber. It isn't just about having 30 grams of fiber at a meal or, 5 grams of protein, 30 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber. That's what I like to see, and I aim for those things. And that's great. But when I think that in our culture and the media and all the stuff that you hear about nutrition, we're focusing on those things. We're saying, make sure you get your 30 grams of protein at every meal. Well, if you're adding a protein powder that has 40 ingredients in it and it has all these sweeteners, and it makes you go on, for one, a sugar roller coaster potentially, but also just makes you crave more sweet because you're getting all this sweet, and potentially disrupts your gut microbiome because you're getting these additives that aren't necessarily great for your health. At what cost is the 30 grams of protein? So what I want you to rethink is focusing on whole foods, and you don't have to worry about it. There's protein powders, they can work. Those things can certainly fit into our diet and lifestyle, but I keep things as simple as possible. Of course, when you focus on whole foods, you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to read labels because it's an apple. So if we just make it simple. Cooking more, key component of nourishing well. You just have control over what you eat when you make it yourself. This understandably is a time in life for a lot of women when you might eat out more. Maybe the kids are gone. You don't have a family to cook for anymore. Maybe financially it's more possible than it was in the past. And of course, it can be done well, but I continue to be surprised and amazed at the ingredients in foods at restaurants. You just wouldn't expect the additives and things that you see there. So if you can make it yourself, you know what's in it. Mainly, again, the focus is on nourishment over restriction. It isn't about eating less. It's about choosing foods that nourish your body very well. So one of the questions that comes up is about anti-inflammatory eating that, I talked about on the previous slide. So what do I mean when I say anti-inflammatory eating? Kind of the first thing that I think about is Mediterranean eating. That's kind of the simplest way to think about anti-inflammatory eating, is a Mediterranean kind of diet. I want potentially a little higher fat diet. I find a little lower carb tends to work, not low carb, a little lower carb tends to work better for women during menopause and perimenopause. Not necessarily a lower fat diet, but the right kinds of fats. So that's things like olive oil and avocados and avocado oil and nuts and seeds, walnuts and almonds and sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and fish, seafood, fatty fish, and lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of color. So when I think of anti-inflammatory eating, I first think about eliminating the heavily processed foods because those are inflammatory. I think about eliminating or reducing added sugars, not sugar from fruits and things like that, but added sugars. Alcohol is naturally inflammatory. And then focusing on things, lean sources of protein, good quality fats, and lots of fruits and vegetables. So that's kind of a big picture answer to that question. Again, a Mediterranean eating, I think, is pretty good. In my Joyful Menopause program, that's what it is. It's anti-inflammatory eating. There's lots of resources and things that I support along those lines. People often ask me, what's the best way to eat? And a Mediterranean diet, everybody's different. So I'm not saying it's the best answer for everybody, but that if I had one answer to what's the best way to eat, it's a Mediterranean kind of diet because of that anti-inflammatory component. All right, so let's shift gears here into pillar 2, restore and rebuild. So your body needs restoration, especially your nervous system. Stress, I think, is one of the most underappreciated component of good health. I would argue that, pretty much people know eat well. Like, that's important, right? Eat well impacts your health. But we live in a world of chronic stress, and stress has a significant impact on your overall health, and I think particularly at this time in your life. When your brain is in a state of stress, all the logic in the world doesn't allow you to eat well, choose to exercise, or go to bed on time. All that logic is out the window because your brain is in its simplest form, trying to stay alive and just being in that stress state. So we need to regulate our stress and calm our nervous system. In my Joyful Menopause program, the first thing we start with is regulating the nervous system because it is absolutely foundational to everything else. Next is sleep. Sleep has a significant impact on hormone balance. Disruptions in sleep can lead to imbalances in cortisol, melatonin, leptin, and ghrelin are the hormones that impact our appetite. So those are impacted when we're chronically sleep deprived. Another component of my program is sleep hygiene. I totally understand that you might be trying to get enough sleep, and it can be difficult during menopause. But we first have to just start with sleep hygiene. I find a lot of women that aren't even giving themselves enough chance to sleep. If you're in bed for 6 hours a night and you got to get up and go to the bathroom once or twice, you're not getting 6 hours of sleep. You're getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So if we don't start with creating an opportunity for enough sleep, creating an environment that makes it easier to sleep, dark and cold and quiet, and I'll talk about in the next slide some things you can do around that. But we want to make sure we're just making it possible to get good quality sleep. It's just going to have such a difference. And I understand sleep is like a huge piece for me. I do not do well when I'm tired. And It's amazing how many women I've seen that when they get their sleep in order, it spirals to improve so many other areas in their life. And lastly, in this pillar 2 is movement that helps to build strength and energy levels. We talked about strength and the importance with protein in our diet, but also, of course, we got to move and lift weights or do strength training kind of things to build that muscle. So what are some specific things you can do in this area? This doesn't mean this huge lifestyle overhaul. We just want to make some small shifts that are going to help improve the situation. So first, like I said, better sleep hygiene. I really recommend starting with an evening wind down routine. It is unrealistic to expect that when you decide it's time to go to bed, you just fall into bed and you've been checking your email, you've been scrolling on your phone, you've been planning for your next day, whatever it might be, you're just going to fall into bed and fall asleep. I mean, it might happen, but your body needs to understand that sleep is coming. So having an evening wind down routine, even starting to make it dark a couple hours before you go to bed. So it's harder in the summer months when it's light so late, but closing the blinds and dimming the lights, I mean, maybe seems silly, but it actually helps to tell your brain that we're getting to bedtime, it's time to start calming down, and it's going to make it easier to fall asleep when you get there. Movement is crucial in a few different ways. Starting out the day and getting outside for a walk first thing in the morning, even 10 minutes can help to balance your hormones and make you feel better all day. So I've seen that in many different places, talking about the importance of a little bit of sunlight early in the day and how that resets your hormone rhythms that can help you to sleep better at night. It can help you to have more energy throughout the day. Strength training, lifting weights or doing exercises that increase muscle mass. It might be, again, hand weights or machines or exercise bands. Lots of different ways to do it, but we want 2 to 3 times a week to be doing strength training. And it's just so important for women throughout the years of perimenopause and menopause as we age to maintain that bone density and muscle mass and improve physical well-being as well as mental well-being. And then lastly, reduce toxin exposure. I talked about that just a bit when we talk about diet, but another component of my work is helping women to reduce exposure to toxins. With gut health and constipation, we want to have our bowels moving because we remove the junk that we're exposed to. But the problem is we're exposed to so many things in our environment, in our homes, our kitchens, our food. So we can start by reducing some of the exposure, and then we support good gut health to keep our bowels moving so we can clean out those toxins. The webinar that I did the last month, I did a toxin class as well. So that's something I recorded for that if you're interested in that. But it's something that I dig deep into. It's a whole component of my program because if we can minimize what we're exposed to, like I talked about reducing ultra processed foods or eliminating them if possible, you can eat well, but if you also eat a bunch of crap, the balance isn't there. We do well, we try so hard, we're trying to get enough sleep, we're trying to reduce stress, we might be doing a lot of things, but then if we're exposed to all these toxins, that can create some imbalances in our system too. And the toxin exposure I get is a little upsetting because what can we do about it? There's only so much we can do, but there's a lot of things that you can do just in your home and your kitchen that are going to help to reduce exposure. And when we have less exposure, then we're putting less pressure on our system to detoxify and to get all this out. So all of these things, little things that add up over time. All right, so the last pillar is about tuning in, letting go of all of these shoulds. The needs of your body have changed. It's time to stop fighting her. Start listening. You're unique. That's amazing. It's awesome. I don't want to go back to 20 personally. Those were good times, but I think the 50s are better because we're wiser, we're smarter, we've got all the experience. There's just so many good things that happen at this time in life. I want it to be joyful for all of you. So I want you to appreciate that you are unique and amazing. And I get it, it's frustrating because our health system, all our things around health kind of want to put us all in this box of the same thing. Even put us in the same box as men to say, this is what you should do, these are the rules to follow, all of that. But that doesn't work. You need a personalized plan that works for your body, that addresses the things that you're struggling with. It's important to create a rhythm in your day and life that's balanced, to ask for support as needed to create that balance. It's, what do you need? What do you need as the balance in your life? So again, it's important to let go of all the shoulds. Maybe, you've done a lot of diets over the years. You've been told lots of things about calories and sugar and fat and carbs and all this stuff. Today, we know so much more. Some of the advice is certainly good and still solid, but much of it doesn't hold up anymore. And I also understand that it can be really hard to let go of that, but it might be time to do that. If you've been on every diet in the book, I I've had a lot of women that really struggle to be okay with eating fat because they were told that fat was bad, and they have learned to not trust themselves and trust to listen to their body and what it actually needs. So it also can be a time in life where you kind of have to let go of all that, and that's what I'm here to do, is support you to know what we know today. What does the science tell us today? It's continuing to grow, and we know so much more. You need to honor your body where it is today. An example of that is in my program, we start with nutrient testing. So I can help determine what is the optimal way of eating for your body based on its current needs. Again, what you need now is not what you needed 10, 20, 30 years ago. So understanding what is your body now, what is sort of a normal diet for you, how do we make shifts to that, to supplement if appropriate, to create a whole foods optimal diet to make sure that your body's getting what it needs. Some shifts around this. I think the old way of thinking, what most women have been taught, is we got to count our calories, we got to restrict what we're doing, we have to overanalyze every bit of it, and that there's this one size fits all. Absolutely not the truth. Every woman is unique. Everybody has different needs. The truth is that way of thinking sort of leads to burnout. And I don't, restriction, I'm against restriction. I sometimes have people track, I often have women track what they're eating, not for the point of necessarily counting calories, though, I don't ignore calories, but it's really about nourishing and creating an optimal nutrition, optimal nutrition, to have a great diet that provides you all the vitamins and minerals you need, with all that color and fiber and protein and all the things to just create that balance. I never wanted to feel like we're counting and restricting. I wanted to feel like we're nourishing. So the new way of thinking about it is whole foods, nourishment, self-care, personal solutions. It's not a diet. I don't believe in dieting, though the word diet just means what we eat, but diet has such negative connotations. It's not about being on a diet. It's a way of living that supports who you are today, not who you were before, who you are today. So what can get in the way with this? Why I think women are stuck a lot of times is because there's so much advice out there. There's too much conflicting advice. I talked to a woman earlier today that's, I think that she used the word 93. Like, you Google something and there's 93 different diets of ways that you should solve this. Again, it all conflicts, and I get it. It's frustrating. And, there is no shortage of advice for women during menopause, but you got to figure out what's best for you. Secondly, trying to do everything alone, whether that's getting support to reach your health goals or simply getting help to empty the dishwasher. You can't do it all alone. And that's one of the things that I think women are struggling so much with forever, is women are doing it all. Women are, taking care of the household, taking care of kids, and maybe parents at this time in life. My career, it's just so many things. And so maybe you need help to figure this out, but also asking for help to let people do some of that other stuff so you can take care of yourself. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And, also thinking that there's nothing I can do about it, it's too late. And that kind of goes back to where I started at the beginning of women are told like it's just aging. There isn't anything you can do about it, but it's never too late to improve your health. Every little thing you do adds up to make positive changes for your health for sure. So every day is a new day to feel awesome. I just want to tell you briefly about my client, Amy. She came to me exhausted physically and emotionally. She was waking up, sweating throughout the night. Her brain was foggy. She felt like she couldn't concentrate at work. She was eating well. She was eating, sort of quote unquote healthy. She was exercising regularly, but she could not lose any weight to save her life. She told me, are the exact words I hear all the time, I just don't feel like myself anymore. She was always proud of herself that she was managing it all, her work, her family. She was juggling a million things. But once she hit menopause, perimenopause, everything kind of was falling apart. And none of the advice, well, first of all, she was told, like, well, what are you going to do? It's menopause. But then the advice she was giving, just wasn't working for her. It wasn't meeting her needs. It wasn't what was working. And, it felt like, again, when I hear it, just felt like overnight all of a sudden her body changed and no one told her, gave her the instruction manual. Like, no one told her, what do I do with this new body? So in our work together, we didn't start out with calorie counting or a strict workout plan. We started by listening to her body. It started with the stress in her life. We created a plan to simplify and to ask for help. She started, right away, just after starting with that, she started feeling a lot better. Then we worked on blood sugar regulation because she was having spikes and crashes throughout the day. We rebuilt meals, so we were balancing sugar and insulin better. We worked on that anti-inflammatory eating that I talked about, and she's continued to just start feeling better and better. We structured a little bit better her day, so the timing of eating and exercise to balance her hormones was working better. And now then, after, she was starting to feel a lot better, but all these changes then were helping her to sleep deeply again. So it didn't take very long. Within just a few weeks, her hot flashes were better. Her sleep was starting to improve. Her energy started to improve. And, it just kept getting better over time. But the thing, again, she said is like, she felt like herself again. Like, it didn't feel like she had no clue what to do and just felt lost. So, now she's lost inches, but she feels confident in her body. She told me, it's the first time in a really long time that like she feels like she has control over her health, that she's just not at the mercy of sort of aging. Stories like Amy's are really it's why I do this work. It's why I created the Joyful Menopause, this class and my program, because I want every woman to understand that you don't have to struggle through menopause. It just doesn't have to be this terrible time in life. And you don't have to figure it out alone. That's probably the bigger takeaway is you don't have to figure it out alone. It is not always a straight line. It is not always a clear path. Some women struggle with more things than others, but there are solutions. There are absolutely solutions. And sometimes that means referring out for support in other ways. But when we can build this foundation of nutrition and stress management and good sleep, we're starting out now on a solid footing. So often women are, they don't have a solid footing because there's so much stressors in our lives, and we live in a difficult environment around eating, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. And so when we can build that foundation, it absolutely adds up to help support the next steps in moving forward. So what could it look like to have really, honestly, a joyful menopause? I've had women laugh at that idea. They think this is, sort of funny to say joyful menopause. Like, that's crazy. That's not possible. Menopause sucks. But I know this is, I get it. It's more challenging. And it's more challenging for some women than others. And, some women really sail through it without a lot of symptoms, but I really truly believe that it can be an amazing time in life to create a life of health and joy and what you truly want. So you can actually feel like yourself again. You can have confidence and calm and energy and clear-headedness. You cannot have the overwhelming symptoms that you might be experiencing today. It's not, again, about being perfect. It's about taking just one step at a time, one day at a time to move forward so you can start feeling a lot better. So how do you start? It starts with understanding your body's root causes. So I love that picture like this of the trees with all the roots, because it is about building this foundation and getting to these roots and understanding what's going on. Like I said, nutrient testing is something I do because I got to understand what's going on with the nutrition, your personal state of nutrition. So it's creating a personalized plan. It's having support and accountability to really make transformation possible. So if this resonates with you, I invite you to a free consultation. What we'll do is we'll talk about your symptoms, we'll talk about your goals and how to move forward. There's no pressure, it's just a conversation, just giving you some ideas of what might be next steps. I'll tell you about my program. But if it's, if that's not the right fit for you, I'll give you some ideas of what might be some next steps for you. And also right now, I am offering a discount for women who commit in July. I'm offering $500 off for my 6-month coaching program. I know we're getting towards the end of the month. We're already at the 23rd when I'm doing this live, and the recording will go out. So that discount will be offered for anyone who books a consultation this month. So even if we have to get it into August, I'm still going to, offer that $500 off for women that are ready to jump in and move forward. You're not too late. You're not alone. You're exactly where you need to be to start feeling better. It's not about being perfect. It's about taking that first step into your second spring. I love this. The second spring is a phrase that's used in, I think in China is where I heard about that phrase for the first time. And I love that idea because it's just a spring. It's not, in American culture, a lot of women I find really look at this as like in the downward spiral. This is a terrible time in life and it's so hard. And I want it to feel like it's the second spring where it's just an opening and a wonderful, like joyful next phase in your life. And I absolutely think it can be like that. So, if you are looking for support, I'm certainly here for you to take the next step together. So some final encouragement. Your body is wise. She's talking to you. These symptoms are just your body trying to tell you that she's trying to be heard. She's out of balance. She needs a little help. So it's time to listen with compassion and curiosity and care. You absolutely deserve to feel awesome. So thanks so much for taking the time today. You can go to this, get this QR code, and it'll get you to the link to schedule a free consultation. The link is on the screen here as well, and you can also email me. So reach out with questions. Again, a limited time offer here for a little bit to get that discount to jump in this summer and get you moving forward so you feel great again. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing to end this year feeling absolutely like your best? So if you're ready for that, reach out and be in touch, and we'll chat more about it. So again, thanks for being here for today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.